Hi, Orange Girl here with another scrapbooking process video for you. I am using papers that I purchased from the Paper Issues store. You can use the old code Orange Girl and save 20% off anything you buy. It's Scraplift Sunday. That's what I'm going to scraplift today. And so this is one of the challenges at Paper Issues is to scraplift this layout. We have a different layout each Sunday that we choose to scraplift, one of the design team members. And this week we are scraplifting Amanda Jane, and so I am going to go ahead and use these papers. These are from the 6x8 paper pad that you can purchase. This is from the Legendary Collection by Cocoa Vanilla Studio. I decided I would have my 3 strips be only 8 inches high so that I could use that pad. I like having the smaller, it just changes it just a little bit, and I like having the smaller patterns as opposed to the patterns that you typically get in the 12x12 papers. So I decided to just have my strips be 8 inches tall, whereas I think hers are probably a little bit longer. One other way that I might stray a little bit from the Scraplift layout is that I am going to try to make it mine a little bit by making it just a little bit more messy. And one of the ways I'm going to do that is I'm going to rough up the edges, I'm going to add some messy stitching, you know, that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go crazy with mixed media or anything, but I am going to just kind of make it my style. So that's one of the fun things when you're scrap lifting someone else is it doesn't have to be exactly like what they are doing. You'll definitely be able to tell from this that it looks a lot like the original, and but yet I made it my own. So that's kind of the idea. Anyway, so I did decide to go ahead and do a 4x6 photo, which I usually scrap smaller photos, but the photo on the original layout is bigger, plus I love this photo. It's a close-up of my grandson, and I mentioned earlier that I am using the Legendary Collection by Cocoa Vanilla Studio, and this one is kind of marketed as a boy line. I don't really believe like in girl lines and boy lines, but I do understand definitely there are lots of papers you can use in here, especially if you have boys. It lends itself to those sorts of things. So I'm using it for my boy, but you're gonna see I have 2 grandsons, and I will probably use it on them, but I will also probably use it to scrap lift my daughter as well. I'm guessing, or not scrap lift, but to scrap pictures of my daughter. Okay, so I'm working on some placement here. I'm just trying to make it so that you can see the green and the orange a little bit, as well as the blue. I don't want too much border around the outside. I'm just trying to manage that and make it so that you can see the layers, but they're not just, I don't want it too much bigger than it is. 4x6 photo for me is already pretty big, and so I didn't want to make it too much bigger by adding a border that's too big. So I hope that makes sense. I gotta admit something here coming up is that I get this layout all ready to go, and I decided to do some stitching, and so I take everything off to do the stitching. And when I put everything back on, I forgot to turn on the camera. So I get it all laid out, then I take everything off so that I can stitch. I stitch off camera, and then when I come back, my layout is almost done because I thought I hit play, but I must not have, or I thought I hit record, but I must not have. So once I got my strips ready and I figured out my layers behind my photo, the next step is to do the 3 pieces of embellishment. So the original layout has a cluster kind of below the photo on the right. There's a cluster on the upper left of the photo, and then the title is in that space kind of on the right side of the photo. I'm going to overlap the photo a little bit, and I'm using these as my title. So I'm going through trying to find words that will fit this layout and what I want to say. And so I'm just like looking, I was thinking this kid, or so fun, or just even this might be one, or hey dude, or happy dude. something like that. And I end up going with So Fun. I like that. And so I'm going to put the rest of those away. So that is a pack of words that you can purchase that comes with the comes in the collection. Also, let's see, so I will put a little bit of embellishment around the title, and then on the original layout, there is a cluster down here at the bottom, and it's mostly, like pieces of ephemera and then some enamel dots and that sort of thing. And then there's another cluster with some larger pieces of ephemera and smaller pieces of ephemera up on the upper left. Well, I end up changing that up here in just a minute, and you'll see how I do. But at this point, I'm still trying to figure out what bigger pieces of ephemera I'm going to use. I want to use these stars. I mean, that's part of the reason that I chose the star papers, is because I thought I could use all the stars that come in this collection, and I do end up using a bunch of those. But just then, when I was trying to put the stars on the star paper, it looked kind of like they were just, wasn't worth it. Like I would be using them and you wouldn't even be able to tell. So I end up solving that problem here in a second. I decided that I might add one or more of those little what are those called, tabs behind the photo as well. So right there, I decided, you know what, I haven't done any journaling yet, and I almost always try to put some journaling on my layouts, and so I am going to use, as one of the clusters, I am going to put my journaling up in that corner, upper left corner. And so once I got that idea, I shut off the camera, I went ahead and typed up my journaling, and now I'm going to come back and start committing to some of my ideas that I have here. So one of the things I'm doing to kind of go away from the original Scraplift a little bit is to make it my own. I'm doing something that I would do. So I am putting those strips on there a little bit wonky. They're not straight at the bottom. They're straight in the sense that they're straight on the page, but they're not lined up evenly on the bottom or the top. So the original layout, they were all even and maybe a little bit longer, and in mine, I'm making them a little shorter, a little more roughed up, all that. So now I'm going to go back and place all of these pieces in here. I'm going to add some stars. I went through all of the stars, and I was thinking that I probably wouldn't use the yellow. I don't have a lot of yellow other than the stars that are on that star paper. So I pulled everything else out. So there's some green, there's some like navy color, some dark, or maybe it's more of a charcoal gray, and a lighter gray, I think a blue. But my background paper, which I do like, you saw me change that out from the white to the color. I like that change a lot. I feel like the star paper that is up in the upper left hand, or that is on the far left, that has all the multicolors, it has a white background, and it just kind of got lost in the white when I was using a white background. And so I like that change that I made from what my original thought was, because it just made a difference, I feel like, in showing off that paper a little bit. So now I'm trying to decide if I do want to end up putting any of those stars on the star paper or not. And I'll show you here, I kind of work around it in the sense that I put some going off the page a little bit, and I will end up putting some underneath that star paper a little bit, so it's not showing the whole thing. So that was just me consulting my original layout to see if I had scrap lifted it properly, or met all the needs, or had forgotten anything. And I felt like I pretty much met the needs, except for my clusters weren't that big. So I decided that I would pull a couple of sticker phrases from this sticker sheet here and add them under the word incredible. So right now, since I know I'm going to do some stitching, I just put them over to the side and didn't stick them down yet, but I pulled them off and I put them like on just something that I have, like a cup or something with some embellishments in it or something. I just have those sitting out there, and then I'm going to pop up a couple of my stars, pop up the word so it's even with the word fun. So under the word incredible, I have two phrases that are going to go there. One says little brother, and the other one says wild thing, and he is a wild thing. He is also the little brother, so I thought that fit perfectly. My journaling in the upper left just says Bryson loved trying to keep up with the big kids. he had a blast digging to make caves and rolling snow for snowman building. So that is my journaling. And then I decided here that I was going to go ahead and put some thread, some tangled thread behind some of the clusters here, and I pull out this green thread. I thought about using the orange, and I end up going with the green because I wanted more pops of green throughout the layout. So after I add some behind the title here, and then I'm going to go try to add some over there, and I'm like, wait, stop. You need to do some sewing. So I did the sewing, and I added everything back down and glued everything back down, and then realized that I had not turned my camera back on. So I decided to give this whole guy a border. So I cut off the edges of my original page there. And now I'm going to add it to this orange border. And there you see how I've already glued everything down. So the only thing that really I added after when I glued things down was I did add some enamel dots. And then obviously I'm adding this little thing right there. But everything else you saw before I did the sewing. But I feel bad that you didn't get to see me because I did make a few decisions kind of about placement of the stars and such. Just not that big of a deal, but sometimes it's nice to see that whole thing. But that is my final product. I really like how this project ended up. It was fun to scrap lift. Another DT member, and we have these every Sunday. So every Sunday you can pop in and see who we're scrap lifting and scrap lift and show us what you do, and you could win a prize, you know. So thanks a lot for stopping by, and I will see you in the next video. Here's a look at that little messy stitching and the final thing. So thanks a lot. Bye-bye.